I'm going to show you a really fun way of starting a watercolour painting. Let's get started. For a full list of all the materials I'm using, colours and alternative colours, please see the description below. So I've started off with 3 colours: Prussian blue, yellow ochre and permanent rose. They're the 3 primary colours, and I'm wetting the paper. The paper is 100% cotton paper on a block, 9 by 12 inches, and it's hot press, so it's quite smooth, and I'm wetting it with a 1-inch brush. And I'm going to apply the Prussian blue wet into wet. I've just poured it on using a pouring technique and just tilting and just seeing what happens. So I haven't actually got any painting in mind, I'm just playing. It's a great way of starting a painting just by using colours. I put a little tray there just to collect the puddles of paint, and I'm tilting and I'm hopefully getting a bit inspired by what happens on the paper. Sometimes it's very difficult to know what to paint and how to inspire yourself, but just putting paint on paper and seeing what happens in this random way, you get these atmospheric abstract effects, and then you can sort of hopefully be inspired by what happens and go with the flow. Whether you make it representational or go abstract, it's up to you, or a bit in between. So I'm using a spritzer bottle here and I'm spritzing. It dilutes the paint and it also directs it, and I'm allowing that to run off onto that tray there. And I'm doing the same here. There's some little dry patches, so I'm just getting rid of those as well with the spritzer bottle. And as you can see, it's diluting and paling that colour there, and I'm tilting away. And there's something very freeing up about this, and I just love watercolour when it's flowing like this. And you can see there's a kind of a back run cauliflower effect happening there because wet paint is running into sort of damp paint. So that's quite nice, you get some wonderful textures. So I'm now pouring the pink wet into wet onto the blue. And as you can see, you get some nice violet colours, and it's sort of just drizzling. I'm tilting and just seeing what happens really. Again, I'm sort of really just looking at the colours and enjoying the process. What I would suggest, if you're new to this, you may want to use the back of an old painting, so it gives you the sort of confidence to have a go at sort of creating something like this. It's fun and it's messy. So as you saw there, I'm spritzing. So that sort of allows the paint to move more because it's wetter, and I'm tilting, and you can see there the pink is on its own and it's mixing with the blue, and then I've just chucked some yellow ochre on just for fun, just to kind of mix things up. They're the 3 primary colours, and I'm sort of almost doing it in a diagonal sort of direction and flicking it onto the painting as well. So I'm really throwing myself into the deep end. It kind of gets rid of that fear that you have sometimes with a white sheet of paper just by, you know, painting colours like this, by pouring it on, etc. So I'm just sort of spritzing again, getting rid of some of those dry patches. When I wet the paper originally, there were sort of dry areas, and if you notice, there is a little sort of rectangle in the middle, and I'm sort of looking at that thinking, oh, I quite like that. So I'm just sort of spritzing around it there, tilting, allowing that paint to run into the tray, and my imagination's now sort of thinking, oh, I'll throw a little bit more pink on, mix things up a little bit more. So it's quite abstract. I love painting sort of in an abstract way, but having representational areas, so it's semi-abstract. I really respond well to this. And you think about nature's that way as well. If you were to sort of do a really close up of an area of grasses, it can be quite abstract, and but obviously they're grasses, but you know, they're sort of shapes, etc. So this is what I'm doing here. I'm just responding to the shapes and the colours, spritzing and tilting, allowing the paint to direct me in this painting, not knowing what the end is going to be, but just sort of trusting the process of this. It's very, very creative, and you've almost got to trust your intuition and your instincts and what you like. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, and you can choose different colours as well. So I'm mixing up some ultramarine now with some Paynes grey. So lots of paint, plenty of water, and I'm going to continue pouring the paint on to the wet surface, as you can see I'm doing here, and tilting. Now I don't know which way's up yet. I'm kind of visualizing that could be a white house with a background It could be water, it could be fields, a really stormy sky. But again, I'm not sure which way is up or down. So I'm very open to what happens with the paint. And I'm spritzing here as well, just to get that paint moving. And I'm sprinkling some salt here onto the damp surface. I've decided this way is up. So it's going to be like maybe trees in the background. And I'm drawing a house here. So just sketching in the rooftop and sketching in some windows with my HB pencil. And I'm going to allow the painting to dry naturally to allow the salt to work. And as you can see, it's really worked well there up in the sky area. And now I'm using some of the red with a pinch of the ultramarine. So it's like a dark brown colour. And I've added some burnt sienna in there as well. And I'm just painting with my size 6 round brush here, wet on dry. And I'm using a little bit of the ultramarine with the red as well, about 50-50. So varying the colours, trying to sort of bring in some of those background colours there to create some colour harmony. I'm rinsing my brush and using the wet brush just to wet the right hand side of the rooftop, pushing this damp brush into the paint. So you're going from a light to a darker colour where I've applied the paint earlier. And I'm just painting in the windows wet on dry here with my size 6 brush with a mixture of the ultramarine and burnt sienna. So it's a dark colour and it really works well against the white of the paper and really brings out this house as the focal point for my painting now. And it's a bit of a happy accident because this was a dry area of the painting. When I spritz it at the beginning, it didn't quite catch this area and the paint ran around it to create this shape, and I kind of went with that shape. If I did this whole process again, I'll probably get something completely different and go with the flow. So I hope that's given you a little bit of an insight how I work in this kind of way, in this style. So I'm just sort of painting a little doorway there as well and adding a few more darks into the windows, into the corners of the windows, damp into damp. Mixing up here some Paynes grey with the ultramarine. And I'm going to pour this to the corner of the house here, just to have a dark next to the lighthouse. And it's kind of running a little bit away from me here. But again, I'm experimenting and just seeing where things go. So I'm tilting and using the spritzer bottle just to get that paint moving. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to lose the white of the house and I don't want to lose some of that lovely sort of background that I've got there. So I'm trying to contain it. So I'm spritzing on the left hand side here just to wet the sort of background, and I'm pouring a little bit more of that dark there. And I'm going to start tilting this colour left, just getting the paint to spread, getting it to move up here, tilting up, tilting towards the house. And because I've spritzed it, the house may be a little bit damp, so I'm just being very mindful of that, so tilting away from the house as well. I just love those beautiful colours in the background there that I painted previously. It's so atmospheric. And these look like dark sort of trees here to the left. Whoops, it's run over my house a little bit there. It will happen. I've got my spritzer bottle on standby and I'm just going to see where that takes me. I'm not going to panic too much. Just spritzing a little bit here now just to get the paint moving, diluting it. And I've decided to sprinkle some salt onto these darks here and allow that to dry naturally. And as you can see, the salts create some lovely sort of light textures there. I'm just spritzing the sort of sky area, and I've decided to do a little bit more pouring just for the fun of it. I like to just experiment just to see what happens. Yes, that's a beautiful background, but I like to kind of push things a little bit. You never know, you might get something even more interesting. Again, you can use the back of an old painting to do this, so you can really explore these techniques. And it's a great practice as well, trying these different things out. So I'm just tilting here, getting the paint moving, using the spritzer bottle to help me dilute the paint and tilt, and you can see that really helps the paint to move. I love that sort of rainbow effect directly behind the little house there. So I'm pouring a little bit more of that dark blue, some Prussian blue with a pinch of Paynes grey, and tilting it here and there. I love the sort of mountain that's appeared in the background with that lovely sort of light yellow-red sky at the top there. So these sort of dark colours are sort of developing, just pouring these random washes, you're getting this look of a landscape. So again, just spritzing, getting that paint to move, just by introducing a little bit more water here and some tilting. And you can sort of really control the wash by tilting it in different directions diagonally as well. So that looks quite beautiful. It's almost like a second sort of misty mountain now developing. And I'm just using my flat brush just to collect some puddles there. So introducing a little bit of dark here, kind of on the horizon line there, using my size 8 brush with a mixture of Paynes grey and Prussian blue. And using that dark just to paint underneath the house here to really have that lovely contrast, light against dark, where my focal point is. I thought it'd be quite nice to turn this blue sort of middle and foreground into a lake. So I'm actually using some white gouache, painting pretty much damp into damp here with the white, using my size 4 round brush. This is the white reflection of the house, and I'm just softening with a clean damp brush just to blend that in a little bit. I just want a soft light reflection of the house. Just adding a slightly thicker gouache here, pretty much straight from the tube, just to add a little bit more light there. And I've mixed up some pink with the burnt sienna to paint the roof reflection as well, damp into damp. And just using a clean damp brush here to blend that white into the water to make it look more natural. I'm using a mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna, quite creamy, painting damp into damp. The reflections of the windows directly beneath those windows there, and it just makes it look like that house is reflected. I'm really pleased with that. It's very subtle, but it's enough to give the illusion of that house being reflected in this imaginary lake. So I'm removing the washi tape to reveal a beautiful white border. It really brings the painting to life. I really hope you enjoy this tutorial, and I hope you're inspired to have a go at using these sort of methods of pouring paint on, just different colours to start your watercolour painting. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments section. And if you'd like to get access to my weekly exclusive tutorials, why not think about joining my Patreon membership? Details about the membership can be found in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Happy painting. Bye for now.